You are now tuned into Flipping the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome one, welcome all to another episode of Flipping the Birds.
He's into the end zone. Touchdown, Eagles.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome one, welcome all to another episode of Flipping the Birds. I'm Brian Cameron alongside Corey Naito and the living legend himself, Morgan Burkett. Long time no see. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, man. It's nice to see the intro still kicking. Still sounds good. So
it's original,
that's cool.
so it has to still kick.
Yeah.
There's nobody else that got it. Like, this is ours.
A little blast from the past, man. But yeah, I've been good, man. I'm happy to be back, and it's a great time to be back. I feel like the draft was always kind of our favorite time of the year, outside of winning Super Bowls and stuff. So happy to be back. Thanks for having me.
Sounds good, man. Corey, how you feeling, brother?
I'm doing well. I almost chucked my microphone through a window or a wall. That's why we were tardy. So apologize for those waiting for the 7 o'clock airtime. But we've got it going and looking forward to talking about the draft. The Eagles made some interesting picks.
So I think that's the key thing, right? Everybody's saying that the Eagles made some interesting picks, and I feel like there's a weird balance going on. I think that's the best way to describe it, right? The balance is people are excited and there's people that are not excited, because the excitement is I think we got some studs, right? But also the not excited part was kind of like there's still needs there, and also the looming AJ Brown trade that apparently is happening as of June 1st at some point. But I think let's break them down pick by pick to kind of look at the pros and cons to it. The first pick was the talk of the entire draft weekend, because the Pittsburgh Steelers apparently fumbled the phone call, and we're trying to block the Eagles from my point of view. But the Eagles ended up jumping the Pittsburgh Steelers, trading with the Dallas Cowboys once again to get a wide receiver. In this case, it's a player that people call the best wide receiver in college football, in Mekhi Lemon. My only issue with this, and I hate saying this because we said this with Devontae, although I was a huge fan of them selecting Devontae, I feel like Lemon is on the smaller end of what the Eagles are used to having. He does remind me of kind of like a Alec Pierce, like a Josh Downs, somebody that could that can get up after and actually surprise a lot of people with his talent. But at the same time, do you guys feel like this was the right move for Philadelphia in the first round, or was this more of so like they went for the need because they know AJ's gone and they kind of shot themselves in the foot?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the pick. I think a lot of it has context with where the draft was falling as well. I think getting the top receiver on your board, that was within your range. It's a good place to get him. I think he does a couple things for you. So you mentioned a couple guys that he reminds you of. To me, he's a better receiver and just a better all-around player. But he reminds me of when the Eagles had Paris Campbell, right? Similar kind of body type, hard to bring down, good in space, but really steady hands. And even in a short time here, he made some impact plays on third down. I think that's what this does for you. You talk about Jalen Hurts and his struggles throwing over the middle of the field. Well, here's a guy that can make every catch in the world. That's kind of what you also struggled with last year. It was really just Dallas Goedert that was coming up in the clutch. As much as I like Smitty, not as reliable in certain times. Then we know what was going on with AJ, right? Well, you need someone who's going to catch the ball on third down when you need to move the chains. Here's what I think is the best guy doing that in the draft. So I don't really think there's a downside here. Now, is he going to be a number one receiver in the league that a lot of people are kind of hoping for? Time will tell, but it addresses something you desperately need. You need to move the football. And then with the new OC coming into town, he's versatile. You can move him around. So I really like the pick and I like the fit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking the Eagles are hoping he's a little bit better than Paris Campbell, but I do see the comparison there. Campbell only had 6 career touchdowns and 7 pro seasons, but I agree with you. I do think that the way the board fell, all the offensive linemen that everybody kind of anticipated or projected that Philadelphia would be after, they were taken. Monroe Freeling was taken just ahead of them to Carolina. Thought maybe they were going to trade up for him. Blake Miller got taken a little bit higher than I thought as well. I think this was Howie Roseman looking at his big board, and he said it after the first night that Mekhi Lemon was a top 15 player for them. They picked at 23, and he said, if you've still got a player out there that's ranked higher than where you're picking, you have to go and get him. And that's what they did. They got Mekhi Lemon. You mentioned he can make catches with the best of them. Some are concerned that when he was at his best, it was when he was getting the ball thrown to him in anticipation of being open, where Jalen Hurts seemingly waits until a wide receiver is open. So I think it'll be an interesting fit. I do think he slots more as a slot receiver. I know the comparison has been Amon-Ra St. Brown, which isn't a bad comparison in the slightest, but I do think they took the best player available, and we talked about it the night of the draft. David, Brian, and I, we didn't really even look much into Mekhi Lemon because we thought there was no chance that he would fall to number 23, let alone 20, 19, wherever they picked him at to go get him. So it's Howie Roseman being Howie Roseman. You're clearly bolstering that offense. You're clearly banking on A.J. Brown not being part of this team anymore. So you go and you load up on offense. I thought it was the best pick at that time.
Now, I think what makes Lemon a very interesting pick is he's going to be primarily a slot guy, right? We know he makes big catches and tight windows. You brought up the fact that Jalen likes his guys to ready to be progressing, be open. But going back into the season, right? Jalen made a comment, and I believe it was probably midway through the season, where he wanted to open up the offense and target the middle of the field. Do you think this is a Jalen Hurts kind of like guy where it's like, hey, like I need not so much speed, but Mekhi is quick, but I need that guy in the middle of the field that can do some damage. I mean, we know they got Dontavian Wicks, who's going to be on the outside, Devontae Smith, who's going to be on the outside and inside at times. Is this more so their answer of like, okay, it's time this is our way of expanding Jalen Hurts' game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like a chicken and the egg scenario where it's like, okay, he doesn't like throwing the ball over the middle. Well, is that because he doesn't have the receiver to do that? Is that because, the offense really doesn't, support him doing that? I mean, last year's offense, I don't think you could buy a dig over the middle if you wanted to, man. It was, drop back and throw to the outsides. So I don't think that's on Jalen, but I think there is truth to the fact that he doesn't read it as well as you'd like him to at this point in his career. Again, having a different OC every single year, like it plays a factor. But now, essentially what you're saying is no excuses. We've gotten that guy. Dallas Goedert's another guy. We saw him used more in the red zone. Hopefully they look at the film from last year and say, okay, we can really use this guy in some unique situations. And between the two of them, you've just opened up the middle of the field now. And obviously, coupling that with the running game, which, struggled to get going at times last year too. Again, you're just setting them up for success. And, me being a defensive guy, I was hoping that, it might have been a defensive guy as well, but I think this is what you need to do. And you need to trust that defense and Vic Fangio just being able to continue what they've been doing with the guys they have.
Yeah, I think Morgan kind of nailed it on the head there. I think they're basically telling Jalen Hurts, we need to change our offensive philosophy. You need to change your style a little bit in order to continue to be successful in this league. We all know the struggles that Kevin Patullo, this offensive line, the offense had last year. It was the talk in the storyline of the entire season, which ended prematurely, in my opinion. So I think it's a pick where, again, it was value and traits. And I feel like that was the common theme with what Howie Roseman was going for this year. It wasn't necessarily getting a much needed need, right? I mean, they have wide receivers. They just signed a bunch in free agency. So getting a wide receiver in round one, I think took a lot of people by surprise because it wasn't high on the pecking order of what they actually needed. But Howie Roseman saw the value. He knew the Steelers were going to pick him. Pittsburgh was on the phone with them, a pick in advance, and Howie Roseman swooped in and got him. So I think for Howie Roseman, he's telling Jalen Hurts, hey, we got you another wide receiver. We got you a tight end in the second round. This is your time to shine and prove to us that you are worth another contract extension, because that's going to be the next biggest talking point here in Philadelphia leading up to the season.
I think another way to look at it too is like if you're looking at positional needs, that's one way to look at it. But another way to look at it is what did you struggle to do last year, right? Well, you stalled on offense. That's what happened. I think that was the major issue. So how do we solve the issue of stalling on offense? You can look at that in multiple ways, right? Is that building up the offensive line that struggled at times, which they addressed as well, right? But I think that's the main thing they had to focus on is this offense can't stall. We're too good of an offense to have 3 and outs consistently, and if we can move the ball, we know our playmakers are good enough, our defense is good enough to win us games. So I think this is a solution to that problem.
So then after getting Mekhi Lemon, the Eagles kind of doubled down on the fact that they want to get guys that can move with the ball. They want to focus on playmakers. Dallas got to sign the 1-year deal. He's definitely going to be gone possibly next year unless they figure something out and he becomes a new Brent Selleck. But a guy that we spoke about a bit on the offseason, the Eagles selected with the 54th pick, Eli Stowers out of Vanderbilt. I love this kid just because he reminds me of Dallas, but just with better footwork. He's quick. He has a nose for the football, and this is a great guy to pair with the likes of Devontae, Mekhi, with Ontavian, and even Dallas this year. How did you guys feel about the Eagles double dipping with offensive playmakers in round 1 and round 2, as opposed to diving into a possible defensive guy? Because when it came down to the pick, we were all expecting them to draft a safety. I mean, I feel like that was the thing. Like, as obvious as it is that A.J. Brown's being traded, was as obvious as it was that the Eagles were drafting a safety there. But they caught all of us by surprise once again, drafting Eli Stowers. How do you guys feel about that?
I mean, I would have liked the MW. Let's be honest. Let's call a spade. But I like the pick. I mean, for me, it's just like over the last couple of generations of Eagles, I can't think of the Eagles without a featured tight end. Like, that's just kind of who they've been. And I think it goes overlooked, but we've been very fortunate. Goddard and Ertz, and then Selleck before that, right? Like, it's just a staple of who the Eagles are, and so you need to get a guy for the future. Clearly, the organization didn't feel like that was going to be Dallas Goedert every single year. Every year it's been a question whether or not he's going to come back. Luckily, they've been able to get it done. Hopefully, he retires here, but you needed to make a pick for the future. And I mean, you got the second best guy in the draft and arguably the most athletic option at that point in the draft. So.
Yeah, I was surprised too, but now if you look at it, Howie Roseman drafted the top wide receiver in college and the top tight end in college this past season. Lemon won the Fred Biletnikoff award, and Eli Stowers won the John Mackey award, which goes to the best college tight end. Obviously, it's more of a receiving award, but the last 5 winners, and I've talked about this a lot, I tweeted it out and it just blew up. I don't think many fans realize how good Eli Stowers was with Vanderbilt. But the previous 5 winners of the John Mackey Award, Tyler Warren of Indianapolis, Brock Bowers won it back-to-back years, Trey McBride, and Kyle Pitts. Those are arguably the top 5 receiving tight ends in the NFL right now. Mark Andrews has won it in the past. If I'm not mistaken, TJ Hawkinson won it back in the day. So, I mean, when you win this award, historically speaking, it has translated to success in the NFL. Now, again, that doesn't mean it's a guarantee for Stowers, but I really do and did like this pick when they made it. He's 6'4", 240 pounds, started his collegiate career as a quarterback, actually, ended up tearing his labrum, and then just went to his coaching staff and said, hey, I want to help this team any way possible. And to me, that is just a huge trait. He's a baller. He's a grinder. He just wants to play football. And I think he's going to fit really well with this offense. I know there's some that are concerned, is he just an oversized slot wide receiver? Can he be an inline tight end? I know the blocking is not graded well for Eli Stowers, but again, you can work on that. And you also have some other tight ends that can kind of help in that regard. You're getting Johnny Wilson back as well, who was a very underrated blocker for this Eagles team. Matt Miller of ESPN compared him to Harold Fannin Jr. of Cleveland. Harold Fannin Jr. had a pretty solid season with the Browns. So I think he's going to be an exciting player. I think they realize they can't kick the bucket down the road again with Dallas Goedert. This is more than likely his final season with the Eagles after, back and forth over the last couple of seasons. But I thought this was the best pick again at that time for the value, but I am with Morgan. I did think getting EMW would have been an awesome pick as well. He ended up going 4 picks later to Cleveland.
I mean, I was hopeful that they would draft Dylan Thieneman in the first round, some way, somehow, but unfortunately, my dreams were crushed. Before we continue with the draft, right, they made a huge move after getting Eli Stowers, literally probably 10 minutes afterwards. The worst kept secret in the world, because we reported this probably almost like a month in advance. But the Eagles traded for Jonathan Grenard, edge rusher. They also gave him a contract extension that they labeled as a 4-year deal worth $100 million with the $50 million guaranteed. Grenard, I believe, is what? He's 20. Is he 28 or is he 30 years old right now? 28. I think it is.
Let me see. I forget.
One or the other, but nonetheless, probably one of the more productive pass rushers in the league. This answers the issue that they had with Jalen Phillips going away, but this also raises a bigger question, because today they did pick up Nolan Smith's option. So with Grenard on the roster, do you guys feel more comfortable with this pass rushing group in comparison to last year? Going into the season, with Jalen Hunt entering another year, Nolan Smith entering another year. I believe Brandon Graham's coming back this year. And then we have Jonathan Grenard, among other players that are going to be in that room.
Yeah, I mean, it feels fairly similar to picking up Jalen last year. Also had kind of concerns about his production and more so his ability to stay on the field. But there were some question marks, and we saw what he was able to do. So I like the pickup. I'm kind of 2 minds about the contract. Get him for 4 years for $100 million. Now, in 3-4 years, that's going to look like a great contract, because the price is only going up, right? But right now, with who you potentially have to pay next year, it locks in some money for you. Now, you picked up the 5th-year option both on Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter. You're going to have to pay them, right? So whether they do or not, I assume that Jalen Carter's staying. Let's hope. Nolan Smith, you're not sure about. He's got to prove it year for sure. I got faith. I really do have confidence. I think that people kind of overlook how much nagging injuries can do to the development of a young player. And when he was playing, at his peak, he was a force to be reckoned with. I think he's always going to be kind of a rotational guy. But again, like, the Eagles have done that for years and been successful. So I like to pick up. The contract right now stings, I think, especially when you're going into contract negotiations next year, but it's just what, edge rushers cost these days. And so in a couple of years, that's going to be a pretty team friendly contract.
Yeah. And Zach Berman of The Athletic reported that the new contract for him registers as a 2-year contract extension with $60 million in new money and $50 million guaranteed. So it's a 4-year deal with 4 additional void years. We know how much Howie loves throwing those void years at the end. And the Eagles could get out of the deal without major dead money hits, with some cap savings before the 3rd and 4th year. So Howie Roseman just kind of continues to cook, and I think manipulates contracts, void years, the best of any GM, maybe better than any GM in the league. And Grenard's cap number this upcoming season is under $7 million. So I think it's a really good move by Howie Roseman. I do think that he will be a very good fit. I loved what he said in his press conference. They asked him about the sack numbers being low. He dealt with an injury last year, but he said the way he views sacks is if Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Ojomo, Hunt, if any of my guys are getting to the quarterback because I tied up an O-lineman or I created that pressure, then that goes down as a sack for me in my book. So I think he's going to be a very selfless player. I think he's going to fit in really well. I think he's going to kind of tell you how it is. I was listening to some podcasts, and Alec Lewis, who covers the Vikings for The Athletic, he basically said, hey, if you call him out on something, he's going to be blunt with you and talk straight up, which I think is good. You don't want players avoiding the media. You don't want players avoiding questions. And I think he'll be very accountable. I think he's a better deal than Jalen Phillips. Grenard is 28 years old, Brian. I did double check that. I just didn't think Phillips was worth that money. He had a really solid second half with the Eagles, but I felt like he tapered off a little bit as well, where Eagles fans and us covering the team, we were kind of amazed with how well he played because the pass rush was so non-existent before he joined the team, where any production seemed to be magnified. And I'm not taking anything away from Phillips. Thought he was a great fit. Thought he certainly served his role well, but I think Howie Roseman made the right decision by not overpaying for Jalen Phillips, in my opinion.
Corey just threw a little light jab right there. Another hook and a nice little haymaker to follow up with that. It's like, yeah, we liked you, but we didn't like you. Yeah, but we liked you, though.
I liked him. I just don't think he was worth that contract. I think there's a lot of people.
Have fun in Carolina. Have fun in Carolina.
Yeah, pretty much. Right?
Hey, he got his bag. Like, he wanted to get his bag. He said that. He said he wanted to be an Eagle, but he said in the same breath he has to take care of his family. They just welcomed a baby into the world. So, hey, I don't blame him at all.
Another player said he wanted to retire as an Eagle when he got traded to the Eagles and signed a 4-year, $100 million contract back then. Now that player wants to go to New England. But nonetheless, in round 3, they finally solved what I feel like was a huge need. Markel Bell, who is a mountain of a monster, 6'9", over 340 pounds, offensive tackle. This guy, the great thing about what I like about this is that he doesn't have to play right now. He could be, in the interim, a swing tackle if need be. But this is, I feel like, the perfect play for them. I feel like, he took advantage of his size in college. The guy is huge, and he made sure that, defenders were aware that they can't get past him. But now being in the room with Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata, like, I feel like this is probably one of the better picks in the draft that not so many people are going to talk about. How do you guys feel about the Eagles drafting Markel Bell?
Yes, I really like it. I think, just a bit unfortunate. Like, the first thing I thought of when he was drafted was, oh man, I can't wait for Stout to get his hands on him. And then, then the realization kind of sunk in.
The gut punch.
Yeah, that part sucks. Cause I mean, this is exactly the kind of, ball of clay that the Eagles have loved working with over the last couple of years, really last decade. As a bit of a trouble with changing direction in space, and he can reach and stuff like that. He's a tall guy. That's kind of natural, but again, like you said, when he gets his hands on you, man, he's moving bodies, and he's got two of the best guys to learn from. So I like to pick to get. I think this is going to be one of those things, and when you look back, like, to get a value like this in the 3rd round, like you said, could be huge. For the Eagles, if you can steal a potential starting tackle in the 3rd round, that's a pretty good draft pick.
Yeah, you mentioned he's a humongous guy, Brian. 6'9", 346 pounds. Absolutely massive wingspan, like 39 inches, I think I saw, something like that. He was a 3rd-team All-ACC honors in 2025 with Miami. What stood out to me was he allowed 0 sacks in pass pro in 558 snaps this past season with the Hurricanes. College football playoffs against Texas A&M, 25 pass protection snaps, 0 pressures. National title game against Indiana, 34 pass pro snaps, 0 pressures. So, I mean, this guy has had success at the highest level. He was the #1 JUCO recruit out of Holmes Community College when he transferred to Miami. And as Morgan mentioned, yeah, he's got some flaws. A lot of these guys do when you're picking in the 3rd, 4th round. Even 1st-round picks have some flaws. But being such a massive human, I think that the Eagles will be able to move and be able to mold him. Joe Cooper has some high praise around his ability to get offensive linemen to play better and to develop more. So I think it's a good move. I know we're kind of saying it a lot. I like their first 3 moves a lot overall. I do think that Cooper, and we see here that he has an okay player development. He's from the Vikings and he's had some other experience as well. So I think what they did here was they got somebody that they didn't need to plug and play right away, where there's a lot of pressure. Now you got to cross your fingers that one of the guys that was really banged up last season, Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson, they stay healthy, because then Bell might be forced into playing more than expected. But give this kid a year. He's a massive human being. He's actually bigger than Jordan Mailata. So I'm actually pretty excited to see those two standing next to each other during training camp.
His NFL comp is Trent Brown, which I feel like that's a hell of a compliment. Yeah. He's after getting drafted, he said, "I saw myself in Philly. I envisioned myself in Philly, and it came to reality." That's kind of wild. So I'm definitely happy that the Eagles did draft him. Very, very very large man. With the fifth round pick, though, Philadelphia dipped their feet in the water once again in North Dakota with drafting a quarterback, Cole Payton. A lot of people have been comparing him to Taysom Hill. I don't have much of an opinion on him, to be honest. But I do like the fact that the Eagles did gather a quarterback again, because with all the Tanner McKee rumors, we have Andy Dalton here, but we know that Howie has a tendency of moving quarterbacks during training camp or before training camp for extra picks, because there's always a team that needs a quarterback, and for some reason they dial Howie's number, or maybe Howie stalks them. Whatever the case may be, this is a solid developmental pick for the Eagles. How do you guys feel about the Eagles dipping their toes in a QB right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's the quarterback factory, right?
We've
had this conversation many years where it's like, doesn't make sense. And I think just, having a quarterback to develop is just something that, Howie's put into the game plan and he's going to keep doing. So in terms of the prospect that we're talking about, he's pretty fun to watch, man. He's got a lot of athletic upside. Throwing motion's a little bit off. You got to take some time to develop that, but man, he can throw a ball when he wants to, right? Arm strength is there. His ability to get out of the pocket and make plays. I mean, it's almost every play. There's some exciting intangibles. The comp makes sense. Taysom Hill. Hopefully, you can develop him more as a passer. But I would be surprised if you're drafting this guy to be a potential starter down the line, right? He's a guy that will give you good looks that hopefully you can develop into a solid backup. It's fun that he's a lefty. That's kind of a cool little wrinkle. We've had a good history with lefty quarterbacks here in Philadelphia. So, but outside of that, it's depicted how he's going to continue to make, whether we like it or not. And so if you're getting that kind of prospect, I mean, it's a good one. There's some cool intangibles here. And the athletic ability is definitely something that wows you on tape.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't love it. I don't think a lot of people loved it. But as you guys mentioned, Howie's going to do Howie things, and he called him a passion project. They saw his highlights. They saw his numbers. Nick Sirianni said that he watched his tape and would write down that he was the best athlete on the field, or that he charted a few plays where he's jumping over people. The numbers are impressive. He only played one season at North Dakota State, despite being there for 5 years, threw for over 2,700 yards, 16 touchdowns, also ran for 13 scores, and almost ran for 800 yards. So the kid put up some numbers in the FCS. I think you got to take the FCS level with a grain of salt now due to the transfer portal. I think, unfortunately, I used to cover FCS football pretty frequently with the University of Delaware. I think it just got watered down a little bit, unfortunately. But nonetheless, the kid has put some really impressive numbers up. I would be shocked if he makes the roster, if I'm being honest. I just don't, again, unless Tanner McKee is traded, unless Andy Dalton goes down because of an injury with his age. I just find a hard path to see him break that quarterback room unless they're going to carry 4 QBs and stash them on the practice squad. Maybe they'll do some wrinkles. I think what could be fun is, do they incorporate him in a new look tush-push package? We saw a couple of times where they didn't run the tush-push with Jalen Hurts. They did a quick sweep or a quick handoff. I would really like to see the Eagles build off that moving forward, especially now that it seems like it's not going away. There wasn't even a vote to ban the play next season. So it would be interesting to see if they can utilize him in that capacity. But from the surface, I just find a hard way to find a way that he makes this team out of training camp.
Yeah, it's definitely be interesting to see what they do with the quarterback room going into training camp and going into the season. Eagles have always been very creative. The next pick I like a lot because I feel like it solves a need and is probably the best player available at the time. They went with a guard, Micah Morris out of Georgia. Another big guy, this 6'5", over 330 pounds. One thing I've noticed that's very, very great about this group of players that the Eagles floated around between the ages of 21 to 23, and they didn't go any higher than that. They're staying young, but Michael Morris, I feel like, is possibly going to be one of those steal picks, just because he's not only don't want to say nimble. He's good. He's good in the pass, right? But he's also an intelligent guard. He's a guy that you want on the field. And I feel like the Eagles, obviously, they struggled with not having Landon Dickinson. They struggled with Tyler Steen. And Tyler Steen was the only one that was always out there. They need a guy that can be more than just a plug and play. They need somebody that's going to be a stable in this offensive line going forward. And I think Michael Morris is that blend of who they're looking for at that position. How do you guys feel about his selection?
Yeah, I mean, I love the pick. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was one of those, top prospects coming out of high school. So he's had, good pedigree. I think the main thing that I've seen about him is, character, potentially more disciplinary issues, and nothing major, but just, has to stay on track. And I think, if there's a little tangent I can go on, like I think a lot of people have it against Nick Sirianni. Well, this is what Nick Sirianni allows you to do, right? Having that CEO coach that can manage personalities, that can develop guys. Like you look at all the Georgia guys they have on the roster, except for arguably like Nolan Smith and Nakobe Dean, who's no longer with us, but not like that. But he's but I mean he didn't go to Dallas or anything, but this like all of these guys kind of have this knock on them where like we've seen the flip side of it where guys just don't pan out because of character issues or just work ethic or whatever that is. With both of the offensive linemen they drafted, I think weight was one of those issues where they have to keep their weight down. This is kind of what Nick Sirianni allows you to do. He trusts himself to develop character. You surround yourself with good people, with good veterans, and so you can go after these guys that the Eagles would stay away from, 15 years ago when they were drafting, right? That was a huge thing. They never drafted anyone with any character concerns or anything like that. Well, now they're willing to kind of take those chances, and so you get a guy like this who, if he was able to kind of stay more disciplined, he might have been, a second-round pick or maybe even a first-round pick, right? So athletically, it's a great pick. We've said it before. It might not be stout, but we have some developers in the coach's office that hopefully can get this guy right.
Yeah, you're right with that. That's why he slipped obviously that far. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN apparently pulled anonymous scouts and executives, and obviously they shared the concerns about Morris's work ethic. But what he did on the field, impressive. I mean, we mentioned Markel Bell not allowing a sack last season. This guy hasn't allowed a sack in the last 3 seasons with Georgia. I mean, that is absolutely impressive. You look at that RAS score, the relative athletic score, which has become a really popular metric. The Eagles seemingly love to draft guys that have high scores. He was a 9.96 out of a possible 10. And what does that mean? Well, that means that he ranked 9th out of over 1,900 offensive guards from 1987 to this season in terms of athleticism, the testing, and all that stuff. Now, he's got to show it on the field. It doesn't mean this kid's going to be an all-pro and, an all-worldly guard in the league, but he has the traits. He has the athleticism. And, this is a kid that could be hungry, slept on a little bit because of some of the issues that these scouts were worried about, but not allowing a sack in 3 seasons playing in the SEC, only 11 pressures allowed. That's over 900 passing blocking snaps. I mean, this kid could be one of the steals in the draft, in my opinion.
And to confirm what Morgan said, Michael Morris was named to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution Super 11, which recognizes the top 11 high school football seniors in the state of Georgia before he even played a college snap. So it could be
Georgia has some good football talent.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he's coming from a Montana or
Maine.
Maine. No disrespect.
No
disrespect to those guys that have come out of those wonderful states, but Georgia, you're playing the Southeast. There are some football factories.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Okay. Nobody's holding back today.
Sorry, bro. I didn't realize you're a big Maine advocate. That's our bad, brother.
I love my folks in Maine. And no lobsters come from Maine.
Shout out Maine.
So I stand corrected. Cole Wisniewski was the next pick in the draft in round 7. Actually 24 years old, the oldest player in the draft. So he ruined my little momentum right there. I like this pick because we needed the damn safety. that we can develop alongside Andrew Makuba. But Wisniewski seems like he could be a little underrated, kind of like a Reed Blankenship. He could be serviceable. He can be, a sure tackler. It could be, fine. He's in the right place at the right time kind of player. And it could be a fit for them if they don't get a veteran safety, which a lot of people feel like Howie's comments are leading to a possible trade addition or a possible free agent addition at safety. But how do you guys feel about this move?
I mean, it's not because it's their first defensive pick of the draft, but this one, honestly, it might be my favorite. I mean, I get it. Is he a top tier athlete? Maybe not. But you turn on the tape, man, and he's exactly what you want out of a strong safety. Now, I don't think you want him playing, the middle thirds. I don't think he has the speed for that at the next level. But man, when he sees something, he goes. And there's a reason why that Texas Tech defense was so good. As many players as they had on that defense, it starts at the top. And he was a guy, like, again, you watch the film, he's coming with bad intentions. He hits everything that moves. Makuba's coming back. That's going to be a great addition. I feel like a lot of people are kind of overlooking how good he looked in his first year. That's a nice little 1-2 safety punch for the future if, again, you can develop this guy. I think him being older, you're not expecting him to, cut any seconds off his 40 time, but being able to communicate in the box and in this defense in particular, having smart, intelligent safeties that understand football, they can see it, they can go. I think that this guy fits in the defense really nicely. Marcus Epps, let's hope he has another good season with us, but let's hope that Cole pushes him a little bit and can get on the field because there's something special to him, man. You watch the tape, it's fun to watch. And so I hope that he can reach his potential here. But even if not, he's going to be a great teamer for you, which if you're looking at this, this point in the draft, like if you can get guys that can come in and be an impact player on special teams, that makes you a better franchise. So.
Yeah, you're spot on there. That's where I was going to go with Wisniewski. I think his immediate impact will be on special teams with the tenacity that you mentioned, his ability to hit hard. He was a linebacker turned safety, was named one of the top 15 players on the comeback player award list this year after missing all of 2024. He's probably best, honestly, hanging around the line of scrimmage if he gets on the field defensively for Vic Fangio. He's played almost 2,300 snaps. You mentioned, Brian, he's a little bit on the older side. I don't think that's all that bad considering you're starting Drew Makuba, who played, 6-7 games of his rookie season before getting that season-ending injury with his foot and ankle. So I think Marcus Epps provides a safe floor. I don't hate that Marcus Epps is still lined up to be the other safety. I know fans don't love it. It's not sexy. It's not splashy, especially with them not getting EMW and especially maybe not trading for somebody. But I do think Howie Roseman will bring another safety in, whether it's a veteran or maybe it's a younger guy that's getting squeezed out because of roster crunch elsewhere. But I like this pick. Doing more research on him prior to the show and over the weekend, this guy's kind of like a rocket. Looks like he gets shot out of a cannon and he's ready to hit somebody. Hopefully he's a little bit more controlled than Sidney Brown. I was a big fan of Sidney. I when he coming out of college, I was like, man, this is going to be like the Eagles version of Troy Polamalu almost, and it just didn't work out, obviously. But hopefully Wisniewski can provide some pop on special teams and continue to develop.
Yeah, I feel like Sidney was the pick that we all wanted, and it just didn't work out for reasons in its own right. But nonetheless, I do agree with you guys. I think this is going to be a good move for them going forward. It's weird because and we're this deep into their draft, right? Only 2 more selections left, but it seems like they solved most of their needs, but still went BPA, and which is a little unorthodox if you ask me. Like it's not often a team can land guys that are in their need bubble, but also land guys that can have a huge high impact depending on how they turn out. The next player seems to fit that model because the moment he was drafted, all you saw across the NFL was the comparisons to Myles Garrett's on measurables, which blew my mind. Shout out to David, who's very excited about this pick. But the Eagles in the 7th round, they picked Uar Bernard. he's part of the international pathway program for the NFL, and a defensive lineman. He's 6'4", 306 pounds, only 21 years old. Has never played football in his life, at least organized football. And the Eagles seems like this could be the guy that they really want to work out. I don't know much about him, but to be compared to Myles Garrett, I feel like it's huge. How do you guys feel about this move?
I mean, why not, right? He's pound for pound, maybe one of the best athletes in the world, right? Those numbers are ridiculous. You're taking a 7th-round flyer. He doesn't count against you on the roster because of the international player pathway program. I mean, this is exactly what it was for. You take a swing at a guy like this. If he pans out, great. If not, you shot your best shot. I'm sure that they are going to be all in on developing him, because if he does develop, again, he's not Myles Garrett. Let's be honest about who he is. But athletically,
one can hope, though.
Right, exactly. You get it. You don't see many defensive tackles that are 310 pounds that can move like that, and that's just people. There's not many people that can move like that. Is it going to even be next year? I don't know. Give him 3 years, 4 years, maybe he gets some snaps. He was kind of, Jordan Mailata. I feel like we've done it once, and that was kind of an anomaly. I don't expect it to happen that quickly again, but I will say that defensive line, although it's definitely not the easiest position on the football field, it can often be the simplest. So hopefully that helps in his development, and he's able to see some snaps. But yeah, why not, right? What do you got to lose?
And I think they have the perfect coach to work with him in Clint Hurt. If you guys saw the video of the call to Bernard,
was only excited to speak to Hurt, though.
Right. Exactly. That's what stood out to me. He was very calm, polite with Howie, Roseman, with Nick Sirianni. As soon as Clint Hurt got on, his demeanor changed and he was pumped up. Hurt saw him obviously pass along the word to Howie Roseman. And obviously the Eagles have had success with this international program, of course, Jordan Mailata being the most notable. And I'll tell you what, if the Eagles end up turning this kid into Myles Garrett light, however you want to describe this kid, I mean, I don't know what the rest of the league does other than just throw their hands up and be like, yo, we just give up. Howie Roseman swoops in, steals the top 2 wide receiver before Pittsburgh could take them. Oh, by the way, convincing Jerry Jones, your arch nemesis, to make the deal to help fill your wide receiver room. And now you're going to get this kid in the 7th round, in a full year, as Morgan mentioned, where he's not going to count towards a roster spot. I think that this is going to be a really fun player to watch. Again, you gotta temper the expectations. We're not saying he's Myles Garrett by any means, but the measurables are there, very similar. He's never played football before. He's played other sports. But, this is just a cool story. A kid from Nigeria coming over stateside, going to be with one of the best development teams in the NFL. And who knows, maybe we'll be seeing a little bit more of him down the road.
So there's one more pick in the draft, right? But maybe we can answer Jay Fitz's question real quick, because I feel like the chances are very, very slim to none. Because didn't Gonzalez just sign a new deal either this year or last year with the Pats?
I got to double check, but he is, I'm almost positive, going to be at the Devontae Smith celebrity softball game.
Do you know who's not going to be there for the first time?
Well, yeah, it makes sense. Mr. A.J. Brown.
Does it make sense, though? I mean, isn't Devontae your boy?
I think he and probably the team has probably agreed, hey, let's stop muddying the waters. Do you, we'll do us. I mean, I get it. I wasn't that surprised when AJ wasn't listed.
It threw me off. He has this new ad, and I don't mean to create any chaos around this, right? This whole nobleman thing, and he's like, in that he's like, I believe when a man gives you his word, his word is everything, kind of thing. That man gave his word to Philadelphia. He's going to retire in the Eagles uniform when he signed that big deal.
But so if they get Gonzalez, though, he takes over for Woolen. I mean, Gonzalez is a corner, is he not?
He is a corner. Ideally, but I don't see the Pats coming off a Super Bowl getting rid of their best cornerback.
No, right? It doesn't make sense to me. And what
I think it's going to be a 1st-round pick, probably. I mean, Adam
Diana
Schefter
never mentioned Christian Gonzalez. Let's put that out there.
Yeah, Schefter, he tippy-toe saying he thinks it's the 28 1st-round pick. I think it'll probably be that, and then maybe a later round pick. I can't imagine they're just getting one first for him, but yeah, I don't see it. And plus, I mean, Gonzalez is great, but you also just brought in Reek Woolen, and you're gonna have to, re-up Christian Gonzalez, and you still got to pay Cooper and Quinion.
Do you see the theory that the Pats drafted the tackle in the first round to trade? That makes more sense to me. I've never seen it done before. It's kind of more of like a basketball or hockey pick, but
right.
That makes more sense to me if they're going to go after someone to get an offensive lineman. Now, the Eagles address that later in the draft, but if they're going to trade for a player, it would make more sense to me that they do something like that.
Or since we've got our tinfoil hats on here, he's got the script, and he's going to pull an Eli Manning and force his way out of New England, and the Eagles will be like, "Oh, we'll take you."
That would be a hell of a.
That was so long ago. Like, I wonder if some of our viewers even remember that happening.
I feel like that was one of the most awkward drafts I've ever seen. Just because like that doesn't really happen.
Yeah,
like somebody's dad just comes in and says, "Hey, like he's not playing for you." Like that's not a thing.
Yeah, it was what 2004, right?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, 2004. Eli Manning was the number 1 overall pick, and then he gets traded to the Giants, who had the 4th pick, and they took Phillip Rivers. You guys know who the 3rd pick was in that draft?
Damn.
No.
Wide receiver.
I was a freshman in high school.
Larry Fitzgerald.
It's a pretty good pick.
Robert Gallery, a tackle, went 2 to Oakland. I don't even know if he made. I don't know how long he even had a career. Oh yeah, I remember him. He was okay.
Well, Aaron Rodgers had that whole fiasco with the drama around the draft too, man. Quarterback, divas, I tell you.
Yeah. You know who's not a diva? The last pick in the draft for the Eagles, Keyshawn James Newby, outside linebacker. It feels like a need, right? Because they've been going on and off with veterans. They've been signing 1-year deals too. But this could be one of those fillers in the group, or one of those guys that just makes the practice squad. How do you guys feel about the Eagles making a move for outside linebacker?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I think this is kind of your Jalix Hunt incumbent, where you get a guy who's highly athletic. You might be able to teach him. Obviously, Jalix Hunt was a bit of an anomaly as a prospect. Switching from safety, coming down and playing defensive end, but I think it fits the mold and what Vic Fangio wants to do. Again, 7th round, you get a guy with high athletic ability. Hopefully you can kind of pick up the defense and give you some value on specials potentially.
Yeah, I think what stood out to Howie Roseman and the staff was just his ability to rush the passer. Had 9 sacks last year, 10.5 the season before that. Finished with 23.5 sacks in his college career. Bounced around a little bit. Started at Montana Tech, then played at Idaho, then out in New Mexico. So he was talking about
West
Montana
Coast
kind of guy there. Playing
Montana came right back for you.
Yeah. So right there he is. No disrespect to him right there, Mr. James Newby. No disrespect. Let's see. Is he from Montana? I will probably die if he's from Montana. Let's see. Idaho. So
completely different.
Idaho.
Yeah.
Anyway, he could be interesting. I mean, as Morgan mentioned, Jalix Hunt really coming out of nowhere. They're gonna have to figure out what they want to do with him. I think if he does what he did this past year and then some, he becomes a priority. I think he has shown he was a former D-back in college. Great story. If you haven't heard about him, read up on him. Former Ivy League player, able to make his way through and was a fantastic pick for Howie Roseman in the 3rd round a couple of years ago behind Quinion and Cooper. So I think, it's you add an edge rush. You can never have too many pass rushers, right? That's what they like to say. You got to deal with injuries. You can rotate some guys, and we'll see what he can bring.
So then that closes out the draft, right? But obviously the draft is never over because you have the undrafted free agents, which I'll just list them off, and then we can go off who you guys are high on, and who do you guys feel like the Eagles made a steal.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. I don't know anything about any of these guys, so I'll leave it to Morgan. I did not look any of these guys up.
I got you.
So we have
I
Rocco
will kick. Go ahead.
Rocco Underwood, long snapper out of Florida.
Mhm.
Jaden Roberts, inside offensive lineman, Alabama. Daquan Wright, tight end, Ole Miss. Maximus Pulley, safety, Wolford. Josh Waring, who's another IPP player. And then Tucker Large, safety out of Washington State. Deontay Lawson, linebacker out of Alabama. Kapina, oh God, I'm terrible last name. Kapina Gushikin, DB, Ole Miss. And Isaiah King, linebacker out of Idaho. How you feeling, Morgan? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so the one that I didn't get too much on is the Idaho linebacker. I was curious to watch the film on him, so don't have much on him. Obviously, the kind of crown jewel of the UDFA class is Deontay Lawson. Anytime you get an Alabama linebacker as a UDFA, he's going to turn some heads. I really like him. I don't know that he's another guy where special teams wise, right, you get some value out of him. Obviously he's coming from a great program. He's gonna be someone who's dependable in terms of understanding scheme and getting guys lined up. I think athletically, not limited, but there's a reason why he went undrafted. I don't know if there's as much of a sparkle there, but he can play football, man. He understands it. He sees it well. Frankly, for me, the Wofford DB, I was watching some film on him, man. He's a guy that flies around. He's fun to watch. Really sticky in man coverage. Good special teamer. Had a couple of block kicks, and he just got a little twitch to him. Obviously, when you're drafting someone from Wofford, are you expecting them to be a game changer for you early on? Maybe not, but again, UDFAs, you're looking for special teams value. You're looking for some guys that might be able to put a little pressure on the guys at the bottom of the roster. The Ole Miss safety, he's good. He's it says 6 foot. He's not 6 foot. He's probably about 5'10". But again, moves around well. This is probably the best man coverage safety that they brought in as a DB from the UDFAs. And again, just really, really, mobile, can move around. Don't know about long speed per se, but they had him in man coverage a lot, and he locked up. So you love that. Didn't see any film on Tucker Large, and then the tight end is really interesting. So Daquan Wright at Ole Miss, he's kind of like a big running back. I don't know that he's got much verticality to his game. There's a couple catches where he's getting up for it, but a lot more body catches. But he's just a big physical guy. He's got some blocking upside. So I like him, 6'4", 246, right? Anytime you can get a guy that's a decent receiver at that size, and that's what they're kind of lacking, in terms of, the younger guys they brought in, more receiving tight ends. So here's a guy that, has some upside as a blocker. But overall, I think, you brought in some good guys across the board. Joshua Ray, who's interesting, again, another international pathway guy. He's kind of frame wise similar to Jalix Hunt as well. Rugby player, so probably a better tackler right now than Uar Bernard. But yeah, I think it's a decent UDFA class. I think these are going to be guys that a couple of us fall in love with in the preseason, and then they may not make the roster. That's kind of how it goes. But yeah, a fun class for sure.
Alex Singleton all over again, isn't it?
Yeah, Paul Turner, right?
Well, you mentioned the linebacker. I just doing some quick research. Lance Zierlein of NFL.com had him ranked as the 11th best linebacker in the draft. So he thought he was going to be a 6th or 7th round pick. Obviously, didn't hear his name called, so he could be a guy to keep an eye out for. And as you mentioned, you get an Alabama linebacker, the eyes are going to be on him, and you're going to get him some runway to see what he can do.
I mean, technically, there's space for him, right? There's a void left by Nakobe Dean. We know Jahad Campbell is going to be a stud. We know Zach Bond's going to be a stud, but there's still space behind him. Smile
Mondon, yeah,
hasn't really shown much promise to really say he's guaranteed a role. But I feel like this Eagles roster, we're going to see a lot of battles in this training camp, more than we've seen before, and there's a lot of things that fans should really get excited about and can get more invested with the team, because it's gonna be one of those units that it feels like an underdog roster, but I think Howie did a masterclass in constructing it.
when you're forgetting about Trot Jr. too, right? So,
oh my God, wow.
Yeah, and these, Lawson's very, very similar in what I saw. Obviously, they're going to have their differences. He's a bit, wider bodied, like he's taller. He's 6'3", but similar in the way he plays. So there's some exciting young linebackers, but again, it's all about specials. Can you make good teams? They have good offenses, good defenses, great teams that make long playoff runs. They're really, really good on specials. And for that, you need young guys that are bought in. You tell me an Alabama linebacker you picked up in UDFA is not going to be motivated to be good on specials, right? Like this is a guy that's going to give it his all. So it's a great pickup.
Solid. So before we end the show, right? We got a little bit less than 5 minutes. What's your one takeaway from this weekend that you could say Eagles fans should be feeling optimistic heading into the season about?
For me, you fixed the biggest problem on offense, which was getting stuck on third down. Hopefully that changed. With a couple of pickups they made. But I think the biggest thing is that we're in a position now as Eagles fans where we can have a draft like this, where we can take chances on 7th round guys, where if we don't have the value we'd like to have, we move back and accumulate stuff. Like it's a good place to be in when you're taking flyers on, athletic guys and still getting ranked as one of the best draft classes. So we're blessed, man. I'm excited for the season.
Yeah, I think the fact that almost every publication that includes draft analysts, experts, whatever you want to call them, they gave the Eagles an A plus on players that I don't think a lot of fans were anticipating would be Philadelphia Eagles. And I think that just shows how good Howie Roseman is, how good this Eagles scouting department is, and just how good this organization is run. I know last year was disappointing. It's really hard to win a championship every year in every sport. I mean, that's why there's hardly any repeats, especially in the NFL. We haven't seen it very often lately. But I think that the fans should just be excited about this new haul. I think Mekhi Lemon and Eli Stowers are going to be extremely athletic. They're going to be explosive. And I think this offense is going to look a lot different than what we've seen over the last couple of years, based on what we think Sean Mannion is going to implement. And I think that's the most exciting and maybe not scary, but maybe give you some trepidation as well, or some anxiety, if you will, because we really don't know what this offense is going to be. We just hope that it can improve to what it was last year, and it was absolutely horrific most of the season.
Yeah, the offense stalled quite a bit. The play calling stalled quite a bit. Everything was just in disarray. And it sucks that we're drawing closer to what could be potentially the end of a nice era with AJ, Devontae, Saquon, and Jalen all together. But nonetheless, it's exciting to see what the future holds with Mekhi Lemon, Eli Stowers. I really like the Eli Stowers pick a lot, just because I feel like the Eagles invested in a very they've gotten better with their tight ends, right? Zach Ertz was a great pass catcher. Dallas Goedert was a great pass catcher, and he had a good run after the catchability. And Eli Stowers seems like the guy that's just like the clone of them mixed together. But it's a promising future. But like I said, we're drawing closer to the season starting in several months. We're drawing closer to a resolution with the AJ Brown situation. But nonetheless, it's looking like the Eagles are not standing pat, and they're doing their due diligence. So it should be a good season.
And now comes the long wait, man. That's the problem. Now the draft is over. Now we gotta sit and wait. So
it's that dead period that nobody wants to talk about Eagles football, because it's like, you don't get too happy, but
tough, man.
But we appreciate all of you joining us today, on whether it's YouTube or Twitter. Be sure to catch us live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Big shout out to Morgan. Hopefully we have you more often on. Morgan's been doing some big things up north. And if anybody out there can donate some bourbon to Morgan.
Yeah, it's been tough out here, man. The tariffs. I've been bourbonless for like almost a year now. So it's a tough time. You can see the hairline suffering. You know what I mean? What doesn't get taken out in bourbon gets taken out in the hairline. So please.
But we appreciate you all. I'm Brian Cannon alongside Morgan Burkett, Corey Naito, and we're flipping the birds.
Go Birds.
Yes, sir.
Flip. Flipping the birds.